You might have a good idea of what your house is worth, but have no idea after fees what you'll actually end up taking away. Let's break down every dollar so you're not blindsided at the closing table. We help sellers prep every week with financial net sheets that lay it out clearly. We'll cover typical seller fees, concessions and credits, and those hidden fees that you may not notice. Josh has been in real estate for 20 years, has listed probably over 500 homes. He sits down with sellers almost daily going over the financial net sheet. Here's how he will typically go over that with a seller so you understand what the fees are.
Generally, when I'm sitting down with a seller, I bring 3 different scenarios for them so they have a range and an understanding for when the offer does come in. They can figure out where that offer is going to land and what those scenarios are. But generally, the first thing is, hey, what do you owe on your mortgage? What is that fee? Generally, the first line item I have on there, so it can be subtracted off. And then we jump down to state deed tax. State deed tax for the state of Minnesota is either $3.30 per thousand or $3.40 per thousand. Let's call it $4.75. That fee is going to be somewhere right around $1,500. And then you're going to have a couple recording fees. Generally, recordings around $46. I generally put 2 in there, call it $92. After that, we get into the real estate tax proration. So your real estate taxes are prorated to the day of closing. If you've paid your taxes, what's the number of months to close? The title company generally figures that out. I generally put 3 months of real estate taxes in there. If you have escrows, those will get credited back to you at time of closing or within 28 days after closing by the mortgage company. Will get you your escrows back. After that, we jump into the title fees and updating your title. I estimate somewhere around $1,200 to $1,500 depending on the home sale or the home price of the property. And then we'll generally have a closing fee. So your closing fee, that can generally range anywhere from $450 to $550. I put $500 for a middle ground. It's generally dictated by the title company and what title company that the seller is going to choose. I generally will put around $500 in there. The next thing that would be on there then is the listing commission. Listing commission is going to range anywhere from probably 2.5% to 4%, depending on the agent you're hiring, the brokerage, and their services they're providing for you. The next then would be the buyer's agent commission. The agent bringing the buyer in, they would get a fee, and that fee is generally anywhere, I tell sellers, anywhere from 2 to 3%, generally negotiated on your contract. Most of the time after the NAR settlement, we don't put a total commission in the listing contract anymore. It's generally just the seller fee, and then the buyer puts their fee on the purchase agreement. So let sellers know that fee is going to be anywhere from 2 to 3%. Again, depending on the buyer's agent and their brokerage of what they charge. After that, if you have a well, there's a well disclosure fee of $50, and then state of Minnesota has a conservation fee of $5. That's kind of your main fees that we run through, and then there's the kind of hidden ones that we talked about, and those would be like your TISH report. So if your property is in the Twin Cities metro area, a lot of the cities down there do require a TISH report, and that is going to be somewhere between $200 and $250. That has to be done prior to listing, but that's a big fee that a lot of agents forget. All of a sudden the house is listed and they're like, oh, I got to go back and the seller has to pay this so we can get this report done, or we can't transfer the title of the property. You get into your rural areas, you start dealing with wells and septics. Generally, your septic inspection is somewhere around $800. I call it $750 to $1,000, depending on size of tanks, pumping, time of year. There's some variables in there, and again, that's going to be $750 to $1,000. Next would be a water test on a rural property. So if you have a well, generally the water test is somewhere around $150 to $225, depending on what needs to be tested for the buyer, what they're requesting.
That's the typical rundown for the most common fees you will see, or the standard kind of way that the seller net sheet will look. So now kind of in that, understand the ones that aren't negotiable, that can't change. That'll be your state deed taxes, your county, your taxes are kind of the important one. Your title fees can adjust if you use a cheaper title company. Not something we typically recommend, but you can adjust that a little bit. Depending on what agent you hire, that will change the fee as well. The other part too is the broker admin fee. So most every brokerage will have what's called a broker admin fee that will be a line item on your what's called ALTA statement, which is the official seller financial net sheet. So that will range anywhere from probably $400, that might actually be really low, up to $1,000. There's another one in there as well. Other cities around the Twin Cities metro, some of them like Mounds View requires a sewer line inspection. That's about $150. So there are some specific inspections to cities. We've covered pretty much every single one of them that I know for all the cities. Also, this is specifically tailored for Minnesota to give you an understanding of what that looks like. Now, the other question we get all the time is going, okay, awesome. I'm getting $150,000 from the sale of this property. How much is the government going to take from that? When it comes to that, this is like long-term capital gains. If you've lived in the house for 2 of the last 5 years, then if you were you're a single owner, you get $250,000 of profit or takeaway pay from the house. That is tax free. If you are married and own the house jointly, it's $500,000. So a lot of times in most scenarios, you're not going to be taxed on this. No, that's a lot of numbers and that's a lot of things. If you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to us, or you get a net sheet from somebody like, hey, why isn't this on here? I live in this area, shouldn't be this case, or somebody said my septic, I don't have to pay for it, kind of thing. In any of those scenarios, feel free to reach out to us and we'll help kind of guide you through it. But that's a good round way or numbers to be able to go, hey, this is what I'm going to take away from the sale of my house, which is critically important to your decision of whether to list or not. Do you want to know exactly what your house is worth? Click the link below and get a free tailored report just for you.